Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping right into an absolutely incredible display of high-stakes sports psychology. We're talking about a specific, intense, 8-minute window from a July 2026 baseball matchup between Hanshin and Yakult, featuring Hanshin pitcher Taisei Kudo. What we're unpacking here is way more than just baseball. It's really about what happens to the human mind and body when they're pushed to the absolute brink, and how top-tier athletes navigate that pressure cooker to find a true breakthrough. Okay, let's drop right into the action. Just imagine the sheer terror of this situation. It's the top of the 8th inning. Your team is clinging to a razor-thin, one-run lead. You're brought onto the mound to protect it, and instantly, things go sideways. You give up a hit, then a walk. You glance up at the scoreboard, and you have exactly 0 outs. Now, go ahead and multiply that anxiety by 3, because that hit and that walk, they immediately resulted in the bases being fully loaded. 3 runners on, nowhere to put anybody. Literally, a single mistake, a wild pitch, or even a walk will tie the game. A solid hit blows the whole thing wide open. This is, without a doubt, the ultimate nightmare scenario for a relief pitcher. And honestly, this perfectly illustrates the immense psychological weight resting on Kudo's shoulders before he even winds up to throw a pitch to the next batter. The broadcast commentary team actually hit the nail on the head here. They pointed out that the natural human instinct in a panic situation is just the raw desire to escape it immediately. When you're standing out there on that island, you want the threat gone, right now. But as we know, baseball doesn't work like that. You can't run away. You have to meticulously execute pitch after pitch, knowing full well that failing to settle the situation quickly is only going to compound that mental stress exponentially. But to really understand how he survived this ordeal, we first got to acknowledge his solid baseline performance leading up to this exact moment. Kudo wasn't just some rookie getting thrown to the wolves here. This was his 26th appearance of the season. He already had 5 holds, and he was rocking a highly reliable 1.75 ERA. He had the tools and the track record. But as any player will tell you, historical stats offer absolutely 0 protection when you're currently staring down a bases-loaded no-out jam. That brings us to Section 1, athleticism under extreme pressure. Because getting out of this wasn't just going to take a good arm. It was going to require full-body discipline. The very first hurdle in this sequence is the batter stepping up to the plate, Iwata. Now, Iwata is specifically known around the league for being a total nuisance. He's a sticky, tough batter who drags out at-bats and just flat-out refuses to strike out easily. Remember what we just talked about, the pitcher wanting to escape quickly? Well, Iwata is designed to prevent exactly that, completely cranking up the pitcher's stress levels. Add to that the fact that the infield is playing shallow to prevent a run from scoring, and Kudo has practically 0 margin for error. So let's see how this plays out on the field. Kudo decides to fight fire with fire, hurling 2 160-km/h fastballs. That's roughly 99 miles per hour for you folks tracking at home. Iwata makes contact, but he gets jammed. The ball comes right back at Kudo, but because of that jammed bat, it slows down unexpectedly, which completely messes with Kudo's depth perception. He actually loses his balance trying to field it. But right here is where the pure athleticism kicks in. Digging deep into his lower body and core strength, Kudo manages to recover his posture, snag the ball, and make a dead calm throw to home plate for the force out. 1 out. The really crucial takeaway here is that this wasn't just some lucky defensive play. Like the commentators noted, this was a literal physical manifestation of his relentless daily training keeping him grounded. When your mind is panicking and your body is literally thrown off balance by a weird bounce, muscle memory and core conditioning take over. He didn't save that run with his pitching arm, he saved it with his core. Having secured that miraculous first out, we reach our next chapter, Section 1, the courage to throw breaking balls. We're now entering a fascinating psychological chess match between the battery, the pitcher and catcher, and the third batter, Cedeno. Now, what's super interesting about this next sequence is how physical endurance slams right into mental composure. Kudo has tasted survival. His adrenaline is pumping incredibly hard now, and you can actually see it in the data. His fastball velocity pushes up to a blistering 161 kilometers per hour, crossing that magic 100 miles per hour mark. He has shifted into a totally different gear, relying purely on adrenaline and raw power. But pay attention to the mental warfare happening here. The batter, Cedeno, sees a pitcher completely hyped up on adrenaline throwing absolute fire. So naturally, he's expecting more heat. But the catcher, Umeno, knows this. So, at a critical count, they make an incredibly gutsy choice, calling for a low slider right in the strike zone. Just think about the sheer courage that takes. If that slider misses and drops into the dirt, it's a wild pitch and a run scores. If it hangs too high, it gets crushed for a grand slam. But they bravely choose the breaking ball to exploit the batter's fastball expectation. And it works perfectly. The batter swings and misses. Strikeout. 2 outs. That brings us to Section 2, breaking limits at 163 kilometers per hour. Suddenly, the impossible seems possible as we reach the absolute climax of this explainer against the heavy-hitting Santana, with 2 outs and the bases still loaded.
At this exact high-stakes moment, catcher Umeno does something brilliant. He pauses the game. The adrenaline is redlining, the crowd noise is deafening, and Umeno just calmly walks to the mound. He doesn't give some complex mechanical breakdown. He just visits to remind Kudo to breathe. His message is incredibly simple. Just one more out. Throw like you always do. Keep it low. It is an absolute masterclass in grounding someone who is operating at the absolute limit of their nervous system.
So, how does Kudo respond to that advice and the crushing pressure? Well, he steps back onto the rubber, winds up, and unleashes a pitch that literally lights up the radar gun with this number, 163. That's 163 kilometers per hour, over 101 miles per hour. In the highest stress situation of his entire season, after nearly exhausting himself just surviving the inning, he somehow throws a personal best. The commentators absolutely lost their minds here, perfectly capturing the roaring voltage of that stadium. They were shouting about how unbelievable it was to see a personal best updated in this specific situation. I mean, usually your max velocity happens early in a game when you're fresh and relaxed, right? For Kudo to break his own physical limits while staring down the barrel of a bases-loaded crisis, it just proves that pressure doesn't only burst pipes. Sometimes it really does forge diamonds. But wait, 163 wasn't even the final pitch. Kudo completely weaponizes that momentum. For the actual final pitch of the inning, he shakes his head at the catcher's first sign. He knows exactly what he wants to do. He fires a 161 km/h high fastball, challenging the batter directly. The batter swings and misses. Kudo lets out this massive roar. He has somehow escaped the inning entirely unscathed. 0 runs allowed. Unbelievable. So, what is the grand takeaway from this incredible 8 minutes of baseball? Why does this matter beyond the box score? Let's get into Section 4, Pitcher's Awakening, the grand takeaway. During the broadcast, the commentators explicitly used the Japanese term kakusei, which translates to an awakening. In sports, an awakening is that rare moment when an athlete permanently levels up. It doesn't happen during practice, and it sure doesn't happen during a blowout win. It happens exclusively by successfully overcoming a massive, high-pressure wall standing directly in your way. Surviving this exact type of crucible is the only way a player fundamentally changes their own internal belief about what they're actually capable of. And it wasn't just a physical victory, but a deeply emotional one that resonated through the entire stadium. As one commentator put it, seeing a pitcher overcome a wall like that, with the stadium's voltage at its absolute peak, literally gave them chills. It's that shared human experience, watching someone face their absolute limit, look terror right in the eye, and push through to the other side. It's powerful stuff. Which leaves us with a really fascinating final thought. We know what this awakening means for Kudo's future on the mound. He's absolutely a different pitcher now than he was before that inning started. But it also acts as a mirror for us. We all face our own bases-loaded no-outs moments in life, right? Those times where the pressure feels insurmountable and the urge to just run away is completely overwhelming. So I'll leave you with this to ponder. If true growth only happens by standing your ground and facing down our biggest pressures, what wall are you waiting to conquer?